Romanticism and Classicism. Romantic revolt is a term loosely applied to a movement in European literature and in other arts during the last quarter of 18th century and the first 30 years of 19th century. At its narrowest, Romantic period in British is usually taken to run between 1798, the year in which Coleridge and Wordsworth published their first edition of lyrical ballads, and 1832, when Sir Walter Scott and Goethe died and the Reform Bill was passed. Romantic revival was marked by a rejection of the ideals and rules of classicism and neoclassicism, and by an affirmation of the need for a freer and more subjective expression of pathos, passions, and personal feelings. Romantic revolt or renaissance of wonder has variegated and several rich colors that we admire in the works of Coleridge, Wordsworth, and Sir Walter Scott in the first generation, and then in the works of Byron, Keats, and Shelley in the second generation. In spite of their different multifarious ideas, subjects, and themes, it is their unfettered and ever-aggrandizing use of imagination, their stress on individuality, upon the expression of the mysterious inner world of an individual that unites them in the chaplet of Romanticism. Yes, all the flowers in the garland of Romanticism are of different fragrance, different colors, and different genre. Coleridge invokes the mystery of unseen, mysterious supernatural world and makes it natural. Wordsworth makes natural and common phenomena of nature queer and uncommon for us. Byron arouses the spirit of adventurism. Shelley presents the blessings of democratic life where love reigns supreme and there is no place for hatred and despotism. And Keats makes us perceive beauty in every aspect of life. Rightly, this period is marked by a criticism as a renaissance of wonder. Ancient Mariner, Prelude, Ode to Intimation of Immortality, Don Juan, Prometheus Unbound, Ode to West Wind, Odes of John Keats, and many other dazzling achievements. Certainly, Age of Reason and pseudo-classicism were not able to produce such rich literature. To understand why the poets of Romantic period revolted against the pseudo-classicism of the first three quarters of 18th century, it is better to have a glance at the literary ideals of the Age of Reason. Pope and his contemporaries idealized the classics of Augustan age. Ideas generated by Virgil and Horace were based upon the concepts of symmetry, balance, proper form, and fulfillment of certain rules and conventions to create a horizontal great literature. Certainly Pope, Dryden, Swift, and other neoclassics of 18th century followed these rules of Augustan classics very successfully. But being the slaves of reason and rationality, they used their great qualities to create merely satiric literature that lacked passion, emotions, feelings, subjectivity, and enthusiasm. Sometimes under the command at the behest of their political patrons, and sometimes owing to their own personal rancor, they tried to defame and disgrace their rivals. Poetry was used for prosaic purpose. Very rarely they talked about some great concept. Their themes were the life of man in town. So their poetry lacked the themes and ideas that can make man think to achieve high ideals of life. In form, they rigidly advocated heroic couplet. Great literature cannot be created by fettering minds and heart to so many such conventions. It demands freedom from conventions to present something new. And realizing the importance of this freedom, Romanticists broke shackles and revolted against the school of Pope and Dryden. Instead of external world, they probed into the immensities of infinite internal world of man. They reacted against the soulless mechanical concept of universe presented by the materialists like Hume and other rationalists. The poetic works of Coleridge and Wordsworth are an effort to spread a Neoplatonic idealism in English society. They assert that this world is being run by some universal spirit that is the source of life. In their great poems, they made people feel that this universal soul reflects itself not only in natural universal phenomena but also in all the living beings of the cosmos. Thus, we see that in philosophy, Romanticism touches mysticism and idealism. In history, it recreated medieval ages that are simple and full of faith. Coleridge's Ancient Mariner and Christabel have clear medieval background. 18th century that had become too artificial and unnatural in its lifestyle and ideas. Romanticism rebelled against it and favored the basic simplicities of life and natural beauty that Romanticists found in simple country life. This is also a big difference in Romanticism and Neoclassicism. The subject of classes was a man and society in the town life, while Romanticists allured people in the simplicities of country life by delineating exotic scenes of natural beauty in country. Wordsworth clearly pronounces that real peace and tranquility is in the lap of nature, not in the polluted, slimy, noisy, and smoky life of towns. Shelley sang the songs of democracy, liberty, and equality. We should recognize that Romanticism was the logical result of Classicism because it was so repressing, so over dominating that Romantic spirit had to challenge it. First man to attack these conventions was Rousseau. His social contract that begins with an epoch-making sentence, "Man is born free but everywhere he is in shackles," caught the minds of the slaves of 18th century like a fire, who later demolished all the symbols of servitude. His Emily presented the ideas of nurturing a child in the simple and natural environment of country, where a natural growth will take place in his physical, mental, and spiritual faculties. Certainly, Wordsworth seems inspired by his doctrine in his prelude. Undoubtedly, Rousseau is a great source of inspiration not only for French Revolution but also for English Romantics, who also preached the doctrine of equality, fraternity, and liberty. The transcendental movement of Germany that was spread by Kant and Hegel also inspired the Romantic writers. Coleridge and Wordsworth went to Germany twice to learn their philosophy that was in harmony with their inner voice. To vivify the difference between Romanticism and Classicism, it is enough for us to see how these two cults used imagination. Classists fettered their imagination to reason. They didn't involve into metaphysical ideas as they restricted their mind to the visible and actual world around them. They created literature objectively from satiric purpose, so their creations are unemotional, feelingless, devoid of passion and great ideals of life. Though in form, symmetry, wit, and proportionate balance, they are unparalleled. On the other hand, Romanticists used their imagination with great confidence, freely and passionately. They believed that their imagination can solve all the mysteries of physical and metaphysical world and can give answers to all the baffling questions of life. Because of this intense and subjective use of imagination, their creations are steeped in emotions, feelings, passions, dreams, mysticism, subjectivity, and yearnings for return to elemental